Okay, so it is 1 o'clock and we're going to start this right on time because we've got a lot to get through today, and hopefully it will be helpful for you. Obviously, we are all very disappointed we couldn't see your faces in person, but hopefully this session will be useful to you and give you some concrete strategies that you can use during this time. So welcome to the virtual workshop for the NIH Blueprint Diversity in Neuroscience Research. So you will be muted during the workshop. So if you have any questions, you can type them into the Q&A box. Hopefully you all can find that in the Zoom software. And we will answer questions at the end of each of the sessions. I think we also have some interactive activities with some of our panelists that are going to use the chat as well. So if they tell you to put things in the chat, you can do that. Otherwise, if you have a question, you can use the Q&A box. But we'll see it either way.
And yeah, so
all right.
Thank you for that housekeeping details, Lauren. I want to introduce Dr. Walter Koroshetz, who's the director of the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. He will be giving the NIH Blueprint welcome. As you know, many of you on this call have been or are currently funded by the NIH Blueprint, which is a collaborative effort of about 14 institutes and centers across the NIH that really recognize that, especially when it comes with something like diversity and training, that's important for us to pool our resources and support you talented individuals. And so Dr. Koroshetz will be representing NINDS, but also the NIH Blueprint. Take it away, Walter. You're muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Walter from NINDS, and I want to welcome everybody to the workshop, and wish we were more able to do face-to-face, but this is, I guess, the new way of interacting virtually. But you know, from my point of view, the mission of the Institute and the other Blueprint Institutes remains, you know, the most important thing over the long run. The mental substance abuse disorders are the leading cause of disability in the United States, and they take a toll every day. And I think, you know, one lesson maybe we could take from the downtimes now is to realize, you know, what it is like to live with these disabilities, where you're kind of always confined because your brain function is really how you interact with other people, how you get out. And so many of the folks that we're trying to help, you know, they basically have COVID equivalent problems for their entire lives. And so if you can just think, when you're feeling down, realize that this will pass, but for us, I think, you know, the virus will pass, but for the people that we're working for, it will never pass unless we come up with better treatments. And we're stymied because we don't have the knowledge about how the nervous system works to the point where we can successfully develop treatments like we wish to. We fail quite a bit. We usually fail because there's some basic science of the nervous system that we don't really know about. We made assumptions and we were wrong, and that's why we fail. So, you know, at NINDS and the other institutes, there's a strong focus on building that base of basic science. That's really where NINDS's strong suit is. And then understanding the mechanisms of diseases, that's also you know, really central to all the NIH institutes. And then we also have programs to try and move treatments out to people, but there we also hand off to the private sector. So for the people who are early in their career, I think as I described it, you can see that there's a whole pipeline of areas where you could feel most comfortable contributing. We need people at every level that I mentioned. And I'd say the one thing that is impressive now compared to, say when I started, is that the tools to study the nervous system are just astronomically better than what we had 30, even 20, or even 10 years ago. And so the difference that you can make entering the field now is really quite remarkable. So I think that it's a great area to get into neuroscience. There's so much going on. There's so many new tools. It takes passion. It takes, living in the lab. It takes, thinking about your problem in the nervous system, as much as you can, really getting consumed by trying to push it forward. It's, science is not easy. It's not, but it's fun. And so it's kind of, if you feel the passion, I think you'll find out it's an incredibly fulfilling career. And so I wanted to, in this time when people may be feeling down because they're confined to home, I just want to put out a word of encouragement that the future really does look bright in the neurosciences. So we're, as Michelle said, we're so concerned about making sure that there's people there who come in who can take the flag forward, and that's people from every single segment of our population. And so all the institutes, and particularly the Neuroscience Institute, who work together with Blueprint, have a really strong commitment in this space. So that's what I wanted to get across today, and I hope people stay safe and healthy, and turn off the TV and think about how the brain works. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Walter, and thank you for coming. I know you have a lot on your agenda, but this is really important to you, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Michelle. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. All right, and so the next thing that we'll do is sort of give you a view of what you can expect for the rest of the few hours that we'll spend together, with the realization that we won't be able to have the conference that we originally planned, but the team and I, we really thought that there was value in using this time in a way where hopefully you would get something out of it, and we would give you information and tools, but you would also know that we're not delusional. These aren't normal times, and there will be times where you feel like doing nothing, and that is perfectly a sane reaction, and that's okay. But also there will be times that, for many of us, our coping mechanism is to think about, in a space where we really can't control a lot, what are the things that we can control? And so we've tried to put together today an agenda that incorporates that, having OER, having Dr. Kahana really go through what are the NIH flexibilities when it comes to your F and your K, or maybe even applications that you're thinking about submitting. Realizing that for a lot of trainees, there's anxiety out there just because you don't know the information. Hopefully we can resolve some of that by giving you some concrete information regarding applications, and if you're on existing awards, what are some of the updates. Then we'll have a break, grab a snack, or hopefully do some virtual networking in the chat. And then we'll come back, and Dr. McKenney from Georgetown University and Dr. Nina Shore, who is our Deputy Director at NINDS, will give you some career strategies and professional development tips that, once again, will be tools in your arsenal that either you can start to use right now, or you will have them at your fingertips when you're ready. And then finally, we'll end with a wellness huddle. I really like this title. If any of you have heard of Dr. Byers-Winston, she's just really wonderful at any time, such a calming presence, but particularly now, I think it'll be a welcome space to have her words in terms of you know, what are the boundaries? Like, how do you set boundaries for yourself and for others? How do you make sure that, you know, you're developing the resiliency during this time to later implement and to go on and do the great things that you're already doing? Because one of the things that we know, and we've said this a lot of times, is that, you know, this too shall pass. And so you want to have things ready when we can go back to what will be our new normal. And so just as a conversation starter and for us to at least try to get each other known virtually, you know, the team and I, we were kind of going over some of our own challenges and opportunities, right? And, you know, for me, I think the challenge of this time has really been managing work and personal life when they're all blended and housed together. You know, doing virtual schooling with a 10-year-old has been a challenge at the same time of working. And then also worrying about a mother who's in Philadelphia and is 78 and lives alone. So trying to frantically get in there and sign up for a grocery delivery has become a part-time job. In terms of the opportunities, I think it really is, you know, for myself, learning what patience looks like, and then also really having that realization that before this, some of the things that we thought were just not flexible in terms of, you know, work, life, all these things that we thought were not negotiable, it turns out that they are. And so for me, that's a silver lining that hopefully I'll keep after this. And as I'm going to turn it to Lauren and Marguerite to share theirs, if you would go ahead and share with the group in the chat some of your challenges and opportunities. You could do both, or you could do one. We'll read some of them. So Lauren, do you want to talk about yours?
Sure. I mean, I think there's probably going to be a lot of common themes here. Dealing with canceled events and not being able to see people in person has been a struggle for sure. I'm also a huge Washington Capitals fan, so knowing that the Stanley Cup playoffs will be going on and missing hockey is sad. But I think the opportunity is really being able to connect with people that, you know, have always been like, oh, I don't have time or can't find the time. And now everyone is sort of forced to be at home, and having the Zoom hangouts and things has been, it's not quite the same as in person. It's still been really nice to catch up with those people. Marguerite?
Yeah, so I live alone. I am a very social person. I'm a person who likes to hug people. So it's been very difficult not to interact with people face to face, or even just be able to shake a hand, give a hug, even knowing, you know, all the stuff that's going on. I also feel a lot of guilt because I do have so many wonderful opportunities to continue doing my work, serving you all, getting a paycheck, and knowing so many people don't. So as someone who identifies also as an empath, I really struggle with kind of knowing what's going on in the world, and it has impacted my emotional and mental health greatly. But even in that, I've been trying to find the good that comes out of it. And every day is a new day to say to myself, how are we going to get through this day today? And sometimes it's going for a run. Sometimes it's meditating. And so the stillness, the quietness has also given me a chance to just think about myself and what do I need, whether it's, do I just need to sit here and take 30 minutes away from my computer, or is it I need to, you know, figure out how I want to develop myself professionally. So I've been taking it day by day, and I hope each of you also are taking it day by day. Not every day is going to look the same. Your problems are not going to be the same as anyone else's problems, or your strengths and your triumphs. I have so many friends who are so happy to like not have to go anywhere, and they're thriving, and that's just not my story. So I'm finally come to a place of acceptance for that.
Yeah, and in the chat, what we see, and it's not surprising because we have many high achievers in this group, is that the challenge is really giving themselves grace with deadlines and, you know, not guilting themselves into being overly productive. In terms of some of the opportunities, people list things as being able to paint and read more, where I missed one, and to catch up with friends remotely. You know, some of the other challenges is really feeling a lot of the people in this space on this call are going through very different transitions, either transitioning from a pre-doc to a postdoc, or maybe even a postdoc to faculty. So feeling like this loss of momentum, and even in terms of it seems like with some terms of the experiments, definitely someone had to call the mice colony, and are now worried about the setbacks. So these are really, really, really real things. But the same person, I'm smiling so bigly because the same person said that's the silver lining is that their wife is due in the next few weeks and they got time to help her and nest with her. So yeah, so continue to read through these challenges and opportunities and sort of think about, I think often, you know, just knowing that you're not alone can sometimes just be a comfort in and of itself. And know that today, we really are going to talk about more of the opportunities. That's where we're gonna lay our focus. But just really wanted you to know that, once again, we're not tone deaf and we're not clueless. We know that there are a lot of personal challenges out there and a lot of challenges that people are dealing with. So that this isn't all rainbows and butterflies, but we thought in terms of the service that we could offer and what we could do, that really putting these opportunities forth to you was really important. And so we'll segue to Dr. Kahana. She's going to go over, and so where she sits is in the Office of Extramural Research at NIH, and they develop the policies in terms of our training programs. Particularly, we'll talk about today a focus on Fs and Ks, but she'll also be able, if you ask questions in the chat box, to give information about T32s or other training mechanisms. We've asked her to really talk about what are the flexibilities out there for certain mechanisms and where are the resources. And so I'll turn this over to Dr. Kahana. Thank you for making the time for us today.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
A little louder would be great.
Just make this a little bit.
Dr. Kahana, would you like to share your own slides or would you like me to put them up for you?
If you wouldn't mind putting them up for me.
Sure thing.
That would be great.
Yeah, and as we're getting those slides up, if you have specific questions about deadlines, mechanisms, anything to do with grant submissions or current awards, you could start putting those in the chat box and we'll be ready. Okay. Dr.
And
Kahana.
one last housekeeping before Dr. Kahana starts is if you need captions or would prefer to see captions, just go to More and Show Subtitle, and we do have live captioning. All right, take it away.
Thank you so much. So really, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Truth be told, it is the highlight of my week. So thank you for that. Next slide. I think, Greg, am I navigating or you?
I will be navigating.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I can't share them and have you control it.
No worries, no worries. So really the focus of my talk today is really going to be about giving a sort of a broad overview of the flexibilities that NIH is offering to the research community in the face of COVID. Next slide, please. I want to be clear also that all the information I am going to present today is on this slide. So I would encourage you to bookmark it. And in fact, I will show it again at the end of this presentation. We tend to do a pretty good job of staying current. I would say we sort of update the information on this webpage anywhere between 3 to 5 times a week. So please, please, please have a look at that. And also please feel free to share it widely. Next slide, please. I want to let you know that NIH is open. I think for a while folks thought that we may not have been working. We are absolutely working remotely. We are processing applications. We are continuing to issue NOAs. We are conducting peer review meetings virtually. We are issuing funding opportunity announcements for both COVID and non-COVID research. So we are open and still very, very active at work. Next slide, please. Let me start off quickly with just a flexibility around application deadlines. So NIH will accept late applications through May 1st for any deadline that was initially between March 9th and May 1st. That may not necessarily impact the audience on this call. It might for some. But just know that you don't have to justify why the submission is late. Simply just submit it and it would be processed. Next slide, please. So I would imagine that the question of, sort of greatest concern to you is, how will I continue to get paid, right? And that is something quite important. And so we have issued guidance, and I am actually going to break this up into stipends and salaries, right? Stipends are really most relevant, right, for those on T's and those on F's. Any institution that has been affected by COVID can still continue to provide stipend payments to fellow and trainees who may be unable to work because of COVID. Basically, just let your grants management official know, and that should continue as usual. There is a little bit more nuance in terms of salary, right, which affects those on K's and on R's. That is actually a little bit more dictated by local policy. And what I mean by that is usually dictated by the policies at your institution, right, about charging salary to grants when work is not when work is not able to be done. So the most important thing there about salary, if you are not able to work, is to please get in touch with your institution and your grants management official about that. Next slide, please. So I want to segue a little bit also to some of the flexibilities that we've been issuing in terms of loss of research time. So we are already expecting that we will receive requests to extend ESI or early stage investigator eligibility. We also intend to be very flexible with extending time constraints for both fellowships, career development, training awards, and including and in particular phased awards. If you could go to the next slide, please. The reason this is important, right, is, particularly for phased awards, right, there's a recognition that there's a sort of pretty specific and tight timeline for transitioning, right, between the first part and a second part. We are acutely aware that that transition time will need more flexibility. Folks may not be able to go on interviews, right? People may not be interviewing, people may not be hiring at this point. So we are acutely aware that we will need to be flexible with sort of extending that transition time. Next slide, please. Likewise, right, for career development awards, there's usually a certain, sort of effort, right, a prescribed effort that needs to be had for the award. Usually it's somewhere right between 50 to 75% effort. We are relaxing that requirement. And so you can go below that required effort level. To be honest, I'm not sure if there's a requirement to let your PO or your GMB officer know. I think just for good practice, I would encourage you to actually just let them know if that happens. Next slide, please. One of the reasons, right, that may happen is because you or colleagues may be asked, right, to actually sort of put a halt on your research work so that you can actually do clinical work, whether it's actually COVID-19 focused, or to sort of pitch in for you know, clinical colleagues who are doing COVID-19 clinical care work. You do not need to get prior approval for that, and I've listed out some of the details here. If you expect, you know, that to be going on for 3 months or more, please get in touch with your funding IC, because at that point, right, there may be, you know, the need to either put the grant on hold or to actually find someone else to sort of execute some of the part of the grant. The truth is, it may be hard to know that now, right? Because we don't necessarily know what will happen, you know, in 2 or 3 months from now. So I would say, as soon as you have a good handle on the extent of the impact of, you know, COVID-19 on your work, I would go ahead then, you know, and submit your ESI extension requests, right? Submit your fellowship extension requests. Again, it might just be hard to know that now. Next slide, please. Just, you know, want to let folks know, I you know, assume and know just from the, you know, various emails that we've gotten that a lot of research has been suspended. We are aware of that. You know, it again would be a good idea to just consult with your IRBs and your institutions if, you know, there are any, you know, sort of issues related to your protocol that may be negatively impacted by COVID. Next slide, please. So I've given you a broad overview here, really, of the NIH policies. It is really important to be talking with your advisors and mentors at your institution. I was on a call yesterday with about, I don't know, maybe about 140, 150 training directors. And I was really struck by how thoughtful many of them were being about the needs of their trainees and fellows. There was, you know, sort of a real grace about how, you know, they were thinking about their needs. And they were very open that when they didn't have all of the answers, that they, you know, sort of knew who they, you know, kind of needed to talk to. So please, please, please just, you know, continue talking to them. Also, really important, contact your program officer or GMB specialist about anything that I've mentioned, you know, here. They may not know the answer either, and that's okay. You know, they would likely, you know, come to us and we can, you know, work with them. As I said, I was going to put up this website again. We do a lot of updating of these FAQs, so please, please, please check back often. And I think there's one more slide. Next slide, please. Yes. So just wanted to end with two things. The first of which is there was this resource link that I just really thought was fantastic. It's hyperlinked, and it's a nice resource just, you know, for workshops and, you know, kind of career development, you know, thinking that wasn't necessarily, you know, sort of COVID specific, but, you know, just sort of had a really nice arc of, you know, kind of thinking about some of the needs of the trainee community. So just wanted to, ask you to take a look at that. And finally, as I was preparing this talk, no joke, I got a text from a friend, and it included this poo. I don't know what to call it. Picture something. And I knew that it really struck a nerve when I started to tear up at the very end, which was, it feels like everything is canceled, and, times are feeling dark. And at the end, just hope is not canceled. And, just being able to take part in a talk like this, seeing everyone call, just really reinforces that hope is not canceled, science is not canceled, and we will get to the end of this no matter what it looks like. So I'm going to stop there. I kept this deliberately short so I could answer, but if there was time to answer questions.
Yeah, we have time. Are there questions? Give it a few minutes to show up in the chat.
There's also a specific Q&A box if you want to put those there, and I'm monitoring that if you do have a question.
Will these slides be available at a later date? Do you mind sharing your slides?
Not at all. I can share them with you right after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the full recording of this entire event will be available on the website. And so I'll send a link to everyone who's registered so you have access to the recording and the slides.
Any other questions? I guess you just were so clear and concise. Oh, we got a question.
Yeah.
So the K99 awards do have a specific effort. Oh, the K00 you're asking about. Yes. Well, but it's the same would apply for that.
Right.
There's going to be flexibility for that as well.
Correct. I should have actually included the F99 K00 for this crowd, but yes, the same would apply.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, we have a question. Yes, we have another question. Is there a way to extend funding past the 4-year mark? And I'm assuming this is, I think this is for the F99 K00.
Sorry, so the question is, can you extend the funding period?
Funding, yes.
Okay, so it's an interesting question because, and I'll just be frank here, a lot of the guidance that we've gotten has been, we are open to extensions. I think, right, and so you could sort of break that down into 2 ways, right? And so no cost extensions are easy, right? And so I think most ICs are open to that. Paid extensions are a little bit different, and I think it's probably going to be dealt with at the IC level, right? And so, right, if someone wants to, extend and also, right, wants, sort of payment for that, I think that there's no sort of blanket policy on that. That's, sort of more IC dictated.
Yeah, and I think that the conversations that I've heard, it really depends on where you are now, right? So if you're currently in your 4th year and you're asking for an extension, then they'll address that immediately. Correct. Now and work with that and decide whether there can be, supplement funds added to what would be a no-cost extension. But if you're earlier on and say you're just in your 1st year, but you're already worried and you know that this is going to extend it out, they'll probably not address it right now. The need will have to be more in that time frame that you actually need it.
Right.
Yes. So I hope that makes sense. So there are other questions. Did you want to read them, Marguerite?
Yes. Will there be new training opportunities specifically for grad students or other trainees that were held back by the pandemic? Perhaps maybe like short term. I'm not specifically sure by training opportunities exactly what that means.
Like supplements or temporary, you know, how we have like critical life event supplements now. Right. OER or someone thinking about just temporary funding opportunities, I think is what they're asking.
So to be honest, I've heard murmurings of something, people thinking about doing this, but I have not seen anything, you know, sort of specific to that, right? So I have heard people begin to ask, people at NIH begin to ask that kind of question, but I've not seen anything sort of sketched out. Yeah.
And in the Q&A we have, will there be any delays in awards for the next award period? For example, the F-31.
I hope not. No, again, in terms of issuing awards, right, say, you know, particularly for type 5s or, I think everything is on track for that. So I have not, I mean, again, I think if anything, I think initial awards, right, or type 1s may be a little slower out the door than in the past, but, you know, sort of particularly for type 5s, I mean, I've been told that those are on track.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree. I think, you know, at NINDS, but probably many other ICs, like that's the #1 priority, is the recognition that these awards are not only research dollars, but they're actually salaries for people. And so, you know, our leadership has told us that's like one of the #1 priorities, is to get those awards out.
Yeah.
I think there are other questions that are in there.
Yes, we have at least 2 more questions in the Q&A box. Can you expand on the nature of flexibilities for K-99 awardees in terms of extension of deadline, salary support during this gap time, and other things?
Yeah, so I guess just a few things. So for K-99, the extensions are actually several-fold, right? So usually if you're a K-99 applicant, right, you have a tight sort of 4-year window between, you know, kind of your postdoc experience and when you're allowed to submit for a K-99. That has been relaxed because of COVID. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, again, also there's a pretty prescribed time, right, during which you need to transition, right, from the K-99 to the R00. Again, I think knowing that there are going to be, you know, sort of delays in, you know, faculty searches, all of that, we expect that transition time will need to be flexible, right? So whereas we normally, you know, might expect it right end of year 2, beginning of year 3, that might not be able to happen, right? And so, you know, that, you know, would sort of get pushed later. Again, in terms, right, and this is sort of the question, in terms of sort of extension and money, I think no costs are a no-brainer, right? So I don't think any, you know, IC would have any, you know, issue with that. I think in terms of paid extension time, right, I think particularly if you're close to that transition period, right, and, you know, you are not in your first year, I think it will really depend on the, you know, IC evaluating whether, you know, or not they have supplement funds, which is why, you know, I think as soon as you have a good handle on, you know, the delay, the amount, you know, the amount of time, it's generally a good idea to get in touch with your PO and, you know, GMB specialists, because they can then, sort of raise the flag to leadership about, we have a fair number of, folks who need help. And, we may need to, sort of set aside, a certain amount of money to do that. So I hope I've answered that in terms of the K-99.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is, will the start times of newly funded awards, or awards that will shortly be made, will that shift depending on when academic institutions open back up again?
Likely. Yeah, I mean, I likely, right? Because there's a sort of dance there, right? Between, kind of issuing an award when sort of that the work can be done. Now, the reason I don't say definitely is because, there are some training programs, right, that, for example, are probably going to start to onboard, people remotely, right? And, sort of not necessarily, kind of wait until folks are back in the office. So I think it might impact the initial NOA, but I don't think, for months at a time. I think it'll be, sort of more in terms of how the recipient can make the case that they're still, able to do their research, even if they're not in the office.
Yeah, and if there's a situation where you're currently being supported and it's more you're transitioning to a new award, you wish to delay the start date, that should not be a problem. Because for most applications, yes, sometimes we're worried about, starting it within a fiscal year time, and we say it's very important that you have to start by this date, or even F-31s, they'll say like it has to be activated by this date. I think even in that case, there are flexibilities. And if you want to request a delay, I believe that will be allowable. Yeah. But yeah, once again, I think Shoshana's message of, just reach out. Don't say no to yourself about anything in terms of making the request, and know that, we are really, and when I mean we, I mean NIH, are really trying to be as flexible as we can. Certainly there are policies that there's just nothing we can do about it. But within reason, there are a lot of extraordinary flexibilities.
So this is I think both a question and probably things to consider as we're moving forward. And by we, I also mean NIH. Has there been any discussion on how time lost will be calculated, especially given that even when research technically resumes and people are able to get back to the lab, a lot of folks are going to have to rebuild, whether it's animal colonies or getting some other things up. So, I don't know if it has been established, or if those are some things that we as NIH are considering.
What's the best? Sorry, was someone going to say something? Oh, no. So I guess I've heard it sort of talked about broadly. I can say from my own experience sort of chairing the ESI Extension Committee that sort of a gross, again, a gross way that we sort of calculate time lost is, sort of the amount, say, of a certain week, right, that you were able to do research, activities, which is, sort of defined broadly, versus, the percent of time, right, that you couldn't. And I assure you, we have had requests from, people, who experienced, Hurricane Sandy, where, they lost their entire colony, and I think it took them probably 6 or 8 months to, sort of get back. And I think we, approved that without any question. We just had them fill out a pretty simple table. So I would say we've talked about it broadly. We'll probably, I imagine, use a similar rubric for, doing this. I don't think you will get a lot of pushback, right, in terms of, document for me the amount, right? I think just sort of a good description of the amount of time lost, with, dates, will probably go a long way.
Okay, and we have one last question. And so you talked a little bit, Shoshana, about the ESI, but what about folks who are just starting their postdocs and they've been delayed for a while, but they want to apply for a K-99? Are some of these same considerations going to be taken into account as the time from, the eligible window?
Yes, the short answer is yes. In fact, we even have an FAQ about that, essentially saying, right, if COVID has impacted, right, that 4-year window, right, between, sort of postdoc and K-99 submission, absolutely. You should contact your, sort of the IC that you think you'd be working with, and say, I need to be able to, apply for the next cycle, right, even though it's more than the, 4 years, because I lost time to COVID. And there's actually an FAQ on that.
Okay, great, thank you. And that's it from the Q&A box.
Thank you so much, Shoshana. And I know this is changing every second. I think your advice to people is, like I said before, really great. Contact their program officer. Also internally work with their own institutions to talk with their grants office and see what policies there is this regarding salaries. And then the link that you sent, know that is changing week by week. I think OER has really done a great job of being responsive. They've asked the ICs or the NIH institutes to feed up to them some of the questions that we're getting. And so they periodically go in and they update and work with our sort of opera and other grant policy officers to then update that information. And so know that, you will sometimes get really direct answers. You'll get answers we don't know yet, or you might get answers one week and it'll be more refined when you ask again. And that all of that is normal because this is a very fluid situation. So thank you, Dr. Kahana. I really appreciate it.
My biggest pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And so now we have a break. And we were hoping you get a little networking on in the chat section. I think we're going to hurry up and send the abstract. Look, Lauren and Marguerite are looking horrified. Like, what is she talking about? We're going to send the abstract booklet to everyone that registered. And then maybe, besides just catching up with each other in the chat, you can also do a little scientific networking. And then when we come back at 2 o'clock sharp, we will start with the professional development session. So see you in the chat or see you in person in a couple of minutes. All right, I think we're ready. You guys have me smiling like an idiot in my office alone reading this chat. It's nice to see so much joy, and then also just to see the reach of these programs, and it's really sweet. So you guys brought me a nice little highlight that I'll keep with me for the week. So thank you for that. So next we will transition to, and I lost my agenda, but I think we called it professional development, career development. Dr. McKinney is the Assistant Dean of Graduate and Postdoctoral Training and Development at Georgetown University. And Dr. Nina Shore, in addition to being our Deputy Director at NINDS, she also provides our institute-wide weekly smile. She sends us puzzles and just articles, and she's just an all-around, you know, just I would say a mentor for the whole entire institute, but then also, you know, someone who deals with times like this with grace, humor, and information. And I think both Caleb and Nina represent that, and we'll share that with you in the session that Caleb and Nina are going to present. The other thing is that we had books for you. The book is called, it's Scholar in the Mirror, is that right? Yeah, that is really, really well done, very informative. Obviously, we'll hold on to those books, but you'll get that. In the meantime, after this session, when we send the link with all the information or the recording, we'll also send a copy of the PDF, so you'll have that as a resource. And now I'll turn it over to Caleb and Nina. Thank you.
Okay, actually, I think
you're going to go first.
I'm going to go first, yeah. So if you want to put up mine, that would be wonderful. And I'm going to adjust my screen so you can see who I am, but I'm going to tell you ahead of time, I look a lot younger in person than I do on this. Okay, well, it really is a pleasure to get to talk with you today. I was so looking forward to meeting you all in person, but you know, I was reading the chat, and maybe we'll have a Society for Neuroscience meeting late in the fall, and I'll get to meet all of you there. Dr. McKinney and I are going to tag team it, and really the way we're going to do things is I will give you what I hope is a sort of a practical set of examples, sort of guide rules for planning your career, and highlight what I think you can really get started on doing now, and leverage this little bit of a lull in the bench and clinic activity to get started. And then Dr. McKinney is going to really give you a framework in which to put this, so you get a sense of how you go about doing this. How do you operationalize all of these ideas that you come up with? So if I could have the next slide. The first rule in this has to do with how you achieve focus and also demonstrate breadth in a career. I find this, even now, the hardest thing to do. And I think the brighter you are, the more energetic you are, the more excited about science and intellectual pursuit you are, the harder this is. Because people will look at your career through two lenses. The first lens is the one that says, on what is this person an expert? What is their body of work that defines who and what they are, and what the rest of the world should go to them for to get information and to get input? And the other lens is going to be, is this person a one-trick pony, or does this person have breadth? Does this person teach and do research and do clinical work and write and manage a family and comment in the editorial section of the local newspaper. And so how do you do both? And I still struggle with this, but I think that early in one's career, as one is going through the application for a K award or from a K award to an R01, the thing that has to win out is establishing focus. What are you passionate about? What do you know more about than anybody else? What do you not mind reading about because it just doesn't feel like work? It feels like fun because you're dedicated to it. And that will be your home base really for the rest of your career. People will think of your name when they see something on this field. I think it's as you move through that field and you establish that focus that you begin to say, okay, now I'm associated with this very specific area. How do I take what I've learned in this area and bring it to other people in different arenas? So for example, as a graduate student, as a postdoctoral fellow, as a resident, you're really going to be zeroing in not only on your programmatic focus, the thing that you really want to know the most about, but where you apply it, whether it's in the lab or in the clinic, or in industry or in writing. But as you move forward, you may say all of these things that I've learned are actually applicable in other arenas. And so you may take what you learned at the bench and bring it to a classroom, or take what you learned in the clinic and bring it to industry. And so I think for right now, what you should be thinking about the most is on what do I want to focus, and in what area do I want people to think of me as an expert. And then down the road, you get really the pleasure and the luxury of saying, okay, now I have this body of knowledge. To what else can I now bring it? And how do I demonstrate breadth through that? And you'll hear in a few moments when Dr. McKinney talks, it's not all about what you need. It's also about what your institution or your company or the people you serve need as well. And so the breadth may also come because of a sense of duty and commitment to an enterprise. So the next slide is another sort of these rules. I have to say, and I'll show my age in saying this, that when I was in training, the notion of a mentor was not as codified or as formal a notion as it is now. And like just about everything in life, I think by formalizing it, you gain some things and you lose some things. I think what you gain is a sense of obligation of that person and an agreement from that person that they will serve as your mentor. What you lose is the fact that this is not just a one-way street. Being a mentor and being a mentee, both of these are part of a dialogue. And so I feel, as one who's been a mentor to many people for a long time and one who is grateful to dozens of people who mentored me over the years, that the best part of the mentor-mentee relationship is this bidirectionality. And when the mentee teaches the mentor as many things as the mentor teaches the mentee, that's when you know that relationship is as good as it can get. And so I think all of us need to keep in mind when we choose mentors, and you will have over the years and even simultaneously many mentors, and each one will be good for a different aspect of what you want to achieve. So my research mentor was never the same person as my career mentor, and my sort of life and work balance mentor was never the same as those other two people. But I think for that relationship to work, it has to have two very active, two very committed sides to it. And so don't be afraid to bring some piece of information, some advice, some word of wisdom that you've acquired to your mentor, because that will enrich the relationship. And then the final point that I wanted to talk about, I think, is on the next slide, and is particularly important now, but it is not at all unique to now. I think COVID-19, everybody would agree, in more ways than one, in some ways that are so absolutely heart-wrenching, it's hard to even get to the end of the day. It is a lemon in a big way. It is, you know, for some people, it engenders disappointment at not being able to do things. For others, enormous loss. For many of us, guilt. You know, I'm trained as a physician. I spent until the last 3 or 4 years, I split my time between the laboratory and the classroom and the clinic. And I guess, although it's been a small number of years, I still have the skills to go into the emergency department and take care of patients, or to be in an ICU and take care of patients. I'm not sure that anybody would want somebody in my risk category chronologically to do that, but you know, there's an element of guilt in, you know, in being in policy and being in education and administration, and not being out there on the front lines. And that's part of the lemon that this experience hands you. I think what gets all of us to the end of the day, when there are things like natural disasters, when there are things like smaller disappointments, like a paper that you poured your heart into that comes back rejected from a journal, or like a grant that doesn't get funded on the first go around. I think what gets you through it, and what gets you excited about doing it again and getting back up on that horse again, is to say, how do I leverage this to make something good out of it? How do I take this and say, this really was a blessing in disguise? And I think that that is what differentiates the people who give up from the people who keep going and who keep saying, okay, I don't like the fact that this reviewer didn't like this grant, because I knew when I mailed it in, it was the most fantastic thing I have ever seen. My policy has always been, and it really stands me in good stead even now, if I'm angry, if I'm really upset, it is not the time to formulate that response. I put it in a drawer. If it's a grant or a paper, it goes in a locked drawer for 2 weeks usually. And when I pull it out, I usually have calmed down enough to say, what wisdom is there in these objections to what I wrote that I can learn from and make it better and make it successful the next time? I find that I cannot respond to it when I'm upset, because all I can think of to say is, how stupid were these people who commented on my grant or my paper? And so I think you may need to give yourselves a little bit of space, a little bit of grace, as was said so aptly before, but then come back to it. Don't give up on it entirely. The next slide just gives you a way to get in touch with me. I am more than happy, both in the chat later on and also when this conference is over. I don't go away. So please don't hesitate to get in touch if I can help you. And now I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. McKinney, who's going to give you a practical way to get started on doing this.
Thank you, Dr. Shore. That was great. And what I have to present is a good follow-up to what she discussed in her slides previously. I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay. You're okay? Okay, good.
Good.
Okay, so I'm Caleb McKinney. I'm an assistant professor in our Department of Rehabilitation Medicine at Georgetown Medical Center, and I'm also assistant dean for graduate and postdoc training and development for biomedical graduate education. And I'm on the board of directors for the National Postdoc Association, NPA. So I am currently finishing up a master's program in design management communications. I decided I wanted to become more cross-functional, and I felt like a gap that was missing in my career development was user-centered design for coming up with programmatic interventions, particularly in the career development space. And that really kind of jives with how I think. And so that program has really taught me design thinking. And design thinking is kind of it's a mindset, really, as well as a framework for helping to navigate the uncertainties of pretty much anything. Usually they are used for what we call, for coming up with solutions for what we call wicked problems. And so a wicked problem is something that's complex, has multiple stakeholders, it's murky, it's, complicated. And when I think about what sort of defines a wicked problem, I look back at my own career advancement, and a lot of people agree when they think of their own careers and advancement. It's like, oh, that checks off every box for what a wicked problem looks like, particularly now when there's so much uncertainty in what happens next and what you can be doing now. And so to come up with something that I think would be helpful and something that you may not have seen before as a way to frame some of the common things that we talk about with career development, I decided to go through a design thinking framework. So we can go ahead to the next slide. So as a disclaimer, and I'm sure you all have heard this multiple times before, continue to be mindful of your expectations during this period. You read a lot online, and depending on who you work with, you may hear a lot of the vernacular of working from home and being productive during this phase. We don't all have the luxury of being able to, work from home or be productive right now, but instead just acknowledge that we're all doing the best that we can to really manage being productive and manage ourselves through a pandemic. And so with that, you just do the best that you can. And I'm going to give you some frameworks to hopefully think through navigating our careers during this time of uncertainty. So next slide. So we're going to do a quick activity. I see you all are pretty great at this, using the chat. So I thought that this would be a good time to do a quick activity, get the creative juices flowing. So write down or type or think of 5 important attributes, functions or qualities or things that you need in a wallet. This is really random. There's going to be a point to this, I guarantee it. Think of the 5 things that you need a wallet to be able to do. I see in the chat already, like money. Ideally, that's what will go in it, but think about the structure of the wallet. What do you need a wallet to be able to do? Pockets, carrying, things like that. Fit in your purse, yeah. So write down those 5 things. Don't put them in the chat yet, because I'm going to have you put something specific in the chat from your list. Think of the 5 things first. Give yourself a few seconds. I see people have very important things that they think of for wallets right off the bat. But go ahead and think about those 5 things first. Write them down. And then I want you to rank them. What's the most important thing of your 5 things in your list? The most important thing that you need your wallet to be able to do. Functionally, in anything that you need your wallet to do. Aesthetically, what's the most important thing? And now I want you to take that most important thing, stick that in the chat. Pile them in. This is great. And when you use the chat, do the two and put it to everybody. Because if you do all panelists, you're just talking to me and Dr. Shore. Okay, so we have all sorts of priorities. I see portable happening a lot, sustainability, pockets. It's got to hold a certain number of cards. It's got to not fall apart. It needs zippers. So there's a number of really important aspects that are necessary for a wallet. And some of those things are more important, some individual things are more important to others, to an individual than to everybody else. And I think what you can appreciate is these continue coming through, having one. Oh, yeah, I love that, having one wallet. As you see these coming in, pay attention to the diversity of attributes and functions that everybody thinks is important. You can go to the next slide. I'm going to finally explain why I had you all do this. It's like, what does this have to do with science, right? And so what I was hoping to illustrate with this is the beginning of the design thinking process. And so when a manufacturer designs a wallet, they have to take into consideration a lot of the needs of their clientele and of their audience. And this is the first step of the design thinking process. And so when you look at all of these different responses to what everybody considers important with a wallet, it kind of illustrates that. And so what I wanted to show you today was the multiple phases of the design thinking process. And this jumpstarts the first phase, which is empathize. Think about what your audience and your stakeholders need and how that may help govern some of your career decision making that you do, and how that may help you with putting together your application materials with regards to the audience. We'll talk a bit more about empathizing in a bit. The next phase is define. Empathizing is a great way, once you assess everyone's needs, to start to establish some parameters as to what your decisions will have to kind of start to fit into. It's not exactly people pleasing, because that can get very overwhelming, but what you do want to know is what are the parameters by which you should be making your decisions so that these parameters don't surprise you. And we'll talk about that. The fun part is once you've defined what the parameters are and define some criteria for your career decisions, think about all of the different ways that could come about. And that's the ideation process. And we have a quirky little game for that too in a moment. And then once you've come up with all of the various iterations that could happen, you start to come up with some models to test and get feedback on. And that's prototyping. And the testing phase, where you pick one and try to go for it and then modify as you can, is the testing phase. And so this is the design thinking process. So let's go through these really quickly. Go to the next slide. So empathize. We played around with the wallet challenge. Actually, the whole wallet challenge is after you decide what's important to you, you start using cardboard and cutting it up and designing a wallet according to those parameters. So you all are very lucky we didn't do this in person. Otherwise, I would have had to stop by the supply store on the way to NIH, and we would have been playing with cardboard, but it's fun. So the empathize step is understanding your needs and the needs of those that are impacted by your work. And that could be now, it could be the future. And that really starts to help you come up with some parameters or influences that you need to meet or consider as you're making your career decisions. Some common high-level questions. What are your quality of life expectations? Do you need to be close to family? What does your team, your supervisor, or your organization need from you? Are you applying for a job, or did you just get a postdoc and your graduate advisor needs you to finish a paper? Did you just get a faculty position and your postdoc advisor needs you to finish a paper before they can see you off? Did you just get an industry job and your postdoc advisor needs to be a reference for your industry position, but your postdoc advisor wants you to finish a paper or finish writing a grant, like all these considerations. What do you value in your work? What types of work or research environments do you thrive in? What excites you about your work? So all these things in the empathize step, empathizing with yourself, empathizing with the needs of others. And that helps to form kind of the parameters of the criteria that you'll decide for your career decisions. And we'll talk about defining that criteria right now. So next slide. So now that you've got some parameters based on your audience needs, based on the needs of the individuals who you work with, or your quality of life expectations, family needs, any sort of needs, that gives you sort of the parameters by which to define the criteria that need to be met for you to reach your career satisfaction. So I like to always say, you know, putting yourself in the middle of your needs and your passions, as well as what you're good at, what you can grow in, and then what your organization needs. And I commonly call that what people will pay you to do. And so you want to have yourself at the nexus of that. And so this is one of many ways to define these criteria. I need to be impacting, let's say for me, training and development for students and postdocs, using skills in design, marketing, science, and research with people who are collaborative, growth mindset, and willing to learn new things in an organization that values holistic learning and student support. And so that's one of my criteria. And so for me, that could be all sorts of different places. And so that'll take us to the next. And so we're going to go through an ideation technique because this is the ideate phase, and it's called 100-mile-per-hour thinking. This technique really helps to come up with a lot of ideas very quickly. And so the instructions are, I'm going to provide a prompt in a moment, but you're going to take 60 seconds and list what I tell you to list in the prompt. Picture all of the possible scenarios. Don't limit yourself in this exercise. The fact that this is time bound puts a little pressure on you to think of options that you otherwise might shortcut yourself on. I know if I have more than like a minute to think about something, my imposter syndrome will immediately kick in and I'll say, oh, I can't do that. But this forces you to at least get it on the paper before it gets locked in your head. So definitely go with your gut, write these things down. And you go to the next slide. So this is the prompt. List all of the possible scenarios and career events that could happen in the next 5 years that would help you meet your criteria for career satisfaction. As you know it now, take some time and think about this after this meeting. But for now, go along with the exercise. Take the next 60 seconds, list anything. Got some examples here to kind of help you think. So do that list, write down that list in a Word document or something. About 30 seconds. All right, you all should have a few things listed. You're lucky I spared you the Jeopardy music. Couldn't quite get to that level of sophistication to make that happen, but you're spared. So when I usually do this activity, I usually do it in a group. And so lo and behold, we have a group, so I think we can still do it. And I think that the ideation process is really enriched by getting other people's ideas, because ideation works really well on teams. And so if you're willing and able, can you put some of your ideas in the chat? Because I want people who may not have thought of things to be able to see these things, because they may be able to resonate with them as well. And so put some of your ideas in the chat box. And let's see if you all get some other ideas from each other. So let's take a minute to see what pops up here. Yep, makes total, yep. We've got transition awards, we've got identifying mentors, publishing papers, getting usable data. These are awesome. Let's bring them in. You all look at these and see if there's anything that could have wound up on your list had you had another 10 seconds or something. Or there may be some things that you didn't even think about. And that's kind of how ideation works when you're on teams. You get to build off of each other's ideas and incorporate other people's ideas that you otherwise might not have thought of. I like the coding. That was on mine too. Yep, I see some people with the coding. So certainly a great time to learn how to code. Certainly a great time to learn R for those that may have had R on your list of things to learn. It's continuing to be on my list of things to learn. It will probably stay for a while, but it's there. All right, these are awesome. So this ideation phase is really meant for thinking of all of the different things that you may be able to accomplish along your career advancement and what that may look like when it all comes together. And that's really what the prototype phase looks like. So if you go to the next slide. Designing the prototype is when you start to go from divergent to convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is the ideation phase. List it all out, come up with every sort of possibility. And then the prototype phase is where we start to converge some of the ideas. What does this look like with regards to actual action items and steps? And so this is where you start to structure your ideas into plausible models for yourself and gives you a basis for asking for feedback. And so some tools that you can use for structuring some of these ideas into short and longer term goals are what you've seen before: an IDP, individual development plan. Science Careers has my IDP. There's institutional examples. I'm sure that your program here probably has an example as well that you use. I know the one at Georgetown I stuck here, shameless plug that we have one. I'm sure our few Georgetown folks on the call here have seen it before. But an IDP is a great way to kind of structure some of these plans, some of these ideas into plausible short and long-term plans. And so another way to really kind of start to evaluate your prototype and your plans that you come up with is to establish strategic mentoring networks and conduct informational interviews once you establish some semblance of a plan. And so I'm going to talk about those two really quick before we wrap up. So if you go to the next slide. Establishing mentoring networks is a really great way to kind of get feedback on the plans that you set up. And so I like to encourage people to establish mentoring networks of more than one person. And I find that a lot of my students and trainees often will rely pretty heavily and exclusively on the feedback that they get from their one primary research supervisor. And how I answer that is that people are complicated. Individuals are complicated. And so you've seen, just kind of based on the different ideas that you came up with, that you may need feedback and perspective from different types of people. And so your needs often are addressed more holistically than what can be given from one person. It's very hard to find one person who can cater to every need that you have, as well as offer you quality perspective on all of the different points of growth that you could possibly have. And different perspectives really help you own your own path in the long term. So I encourage you to definitely fill out one of these mentoring maps at some point. Think of a point of development that you'll need for each idea that you might have put along your prototype, your short and long-term plan, and identify somebody who's really good at that. I'm becoming pretty cross-functional these days, and I know in my scientific community, let's just be honest, I will probably never find somebody who can really mentor me in marketing. Pretty tough. So I go outside of my scientific field and I have mentors in marketing and communications. I have mentors who are really good at grant writing. I have mentors who are amazing public speakers. I have mentors who help me navigate an IRB protocol, because moving into the qualitative research space, I've started to have to do those. And I tell you, it's a lot different than Petri dishes. And so you really learn to find mentors who can help you at the stage that you're at in a particular area that you need. All right, next slide. Informational interviews are another way to help you kind of test out your ideas for career advancement. You can talk to people. I know we have various career transitions and stages represented at this conference, and you can talk to someone at your next stage. If you're an undergrad moving into graduate school, talk to a PhD student. PhD students talk to postdocs, faculty, people who work in industry, alumni from your institutions and programs, people who are doing something that you want to learn a little bit more about. Talk to them and ask them about their opinion of some of your ideas. Ask them about how they got to where they are. And people say yes to these informational interviews. And I'll tell you, a great time to do these is right now, because people will hop on a Zoom call in a heartbeat right now. This is a great time to get on people's calendars. I know lots of my students right now are doing informational interviews multiple times a week, because this is a great time for accessing professionals, because they are they're working, but it's a great way to kind of build that community, especially at a time that can be otherwise particularly isolating. So people do welcome these. So go through LinkedIn, contact individuals who you're interested in, and they'll be happy to talk to you. And keep in touch with them with updates and well wishes. I know some of my mentors, whenever they get a paper published that I see, I send them an email congratulating them, letting them know I'm thinking about them, or I'll let them know that some piece of advice they gave me really worked, and I got, you know, a promotion or something published or something like that as a result of some tidbit that I took from them. And I have a link there to a blog that we wrote on requesting informational interviews. I assume these slides will be provided to you all, are totally available. You can go to the next slide. And so, yeah, this is the last thing. Try out your best ideas according to your individual development plan that you came up with. Let that be your prototype for your career advancement. Try out some of your best ideas and improve and iterate along the way. That's how the design process works. You modify, change along the way as you test and find out new pieces of information. And so some example action items that you can take is to upskill in your current area. And so, as I said before, great time to complete trainings and research methods or learn new skills. If you've been putting off learning R, this is a great time for that. I see some resource sharing in the chat going on now about R. I'm gonna have to take a look at some of that myself. This is also a great time to write drafts of dissertation sections, grant proposals, publications, blogs. Just get your thoughts on paper, start writing. As a note, journals seem to be very understanding right now of the current circumstances, and they're happy to explore publication ideas. This is also a good time to pursue some part-time experiential learning opportunities. Those that can happen virtually, there's plenty of those. As an example, some of my students and postdocs are working with us as part-time consultants to help our new postdoc office put together a grant-funded training in project management. And so while they're at home, they're able to give us some virtual guidance on some of the training experiences that can be more prevalent in our program that we're coming up with, because I'm pretty far removed from the bench now. And so if we're developing a project management training for scientists, and it turns out we need trainees involved with it to let us know what they're actually doing in the lab that they could use our project management techniques for. So we brought on about 3 or 4 students and postdocs from our own institution who wanted to get more involved now that they had some more spare time. So I imagine you could probably solicit some emails from your IRB office, your research development office, or your tech transfer offices, your communications office. I'm sure there's offices around campus that have all sorts of remote opportunities that could help you learn different things to use in your science. And so I think that is my last slide. You go to that's my, oh yeah, so this is a summary. Use design thinking. It really helps you structure your reflection, and it adds a certain deliberateness to your career development planning, especially when it comes to navigating the uncertainties of career management and career advancement. And so you also feel free to do this over and over again throughout your career. You come up with a prototype now, it's not going to be the same prototype in about 2 years, 1 month, 2 months. Test this out from time to time and get feedback from people. And so those are all my slides. I wanted to make sure we left ample time for just open discussion. We're happy to answer some questions and take it from there.
Thank you both. I think that was great. I mean, I jotted down my own sort of ideas, and I'm going to make my little cardboard wallet.
It actually is a fun exercise. I was totally going to do a short version of it in the in-person.
Are there questions from the group? Please leave them in the chat or use the Q&A. And I see people are putting resources in the chat, which is great. We'll be able to save the chat and then send out those links as well.
I see a question in the Q&A. Where did I go for training on design thinking? And so my master's program at Georgetown School of Continuing Studies is where I took the bulk of my design curriculum. So it's 10 classes in design management, and one of them was design thinking. But there's a number of books that are really helpful in this space. Growth or Mindset is a really helpful book for getting into that paradigm. Designful Thinking is also a really helpful book. And there's a lot of articles in Harvard Business Review and online that can introduce you to the design thinking framework if you want a quick intro to it. Oh, and I see resources in the chat too.
Yeah.
Especially on R.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I need to rethink what I need to do now.
I know, I've added that to my list too. And in terms of informational interviews, I mean, I know you sent the link in the resource, but either Nina or Caleb, like when do you find them most efficient, right? Because sometimes I've been asked by people, what is your typical day? And that one always just, I don't know where to go from that type of question. What questions are more useful?
Yeah, I think before you set out on informational interviews, I agree with Caleb that they're not only useful from the standpoint of getting information, they help you network, and they get, you're going out there because you want to get to know somebody, but it serves the purpose of having them get to know you as well. But you want to make a good impression, and you also want to make good use of your and their time. And so I think ahead of time, you want to say, am I just doing this because somebody said I should do this, or do I really have some things I want to know about, that I want to learn about? You know, I think there are some very practical things that I found it helpful to talk through with people before I actually went out and did them for real. So, you know, to ask people to actually frame it by saying, here's what I think I want to do with my life. Here's what's important to me. Here's what's negotiable because it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. Knowing that, what would you ask for if you were me going out on a job interview? And how do you negotiate and navigate that middle ground between, on the one hand, shortchanging yourself and not getting what you need, and on the other hand, asking for so much that people say, oh, forget it, this is just not worth it? What is that middle ground? I think I found it helpful to talk that through, almost to do a rehearsal with people.
Yeah, definitely agree with all of that. That has worked immensely for me as well. I'd like to also get an idea of what do I need to be learning right now? Because it's particularly from going, for my case, from PhD research moving into administration, and I've seen PhDs and scientists move into other spaces as well, including, you know, science spaces. But what do I need to be learning and doing right now to be successful at that work? What's the learning curve look like, and how can I make that less steep in my transition?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what you were saying before, what types of things in your current role are you doing that I could be thinking about right now? If you were me, what would you have kind of changed to help better prepare you for your current work? And that conversation winds up going on and on. People love talking about that. If then, now, what now sort of conversations.
Yeah, well, and it's the analog of, you know, what do you wish you knew now that you've done this? What do you wish you knew when you were starting out that you didn't know? What skill do you wish you had before you accepted this position?
Right.
Yeah, that's a fun one for both sides of the conversation.
That's a good one.
Yeah, to make it conversational, because that's at the end of the day, what you really want to do is make them conversational. Because if you make it memorable, you wind up with a networking connection at the end. Because if you have a good personal interaction, that person will think of you when opportunities arise, if that person's in a position to be able to do that. So you want to leave a good impression as well.
Mm-hmm.
Starting to see questions pop up. All right. So thank you for validating the fact that this might not be the most productive moment in our career and that all we can do is our best. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was worth repeating. From my wallet, I love the metaphor. From my wallet, compartmentalization is key. Having trouble doing that right now during COVID, work from home. Any advice on that? That's a really good question. I know for
that is an intrusive thing. Whatever you try to compartmentalize and fixate on, COVID seems to keep, at least for me, it keeps coming back in. I'm addicted to that Hopkins site where you look at the map and crazy. I don't know what I think I'm going to see if I look at it 15 minutes apart, but
yeah, if it's comforting for you, then hey. I know for me, I actually have to do the opposite. I have to separate myself a bit from the news periodically, especially since I'm sitting in the apartment. I'm just like, okay, probably not going to catch it today because I'm not leaving the house. So I'm not going to look at what's going on outside. I'm going to focus on completing something today, whether that be, writing in a journal, drafting a blog entry, responding to one of these 100 emails. I'm going to get something done today. And I think the nice thing, and this is kind of my project management fixation coming in, is breaking down my day into some level of routine, like I would be if I was going to work. What do I want to accomplish this hour, these next couple of hours, this half day, and just kind of sit down and focus on something and cut out the externals just for a bit. And then afterwards, I could treat myself to some news. Treat myself in quotes at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I also think that, I mean, you mentioned your experiences that you're having now in learning a new skill and then applying it to what you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important early on in one's career to realize that even such things as compartmentalizing or organizing and prioritizing and having something you didn't anticipate intrude and then having to reorganize and reprioritize how you're going to spend your time, that's a learned skill. I mean, I feel like I learned to do it when I was a resident because I had to, because people's lives depended on it. People learn how to do it when they're teaching because they're in the middle of doing something for their research career, and then 4 students show up outside the door and you have to reorganize what you're going to do with that next hour. But I say that because I think you have to cut yourself a little bit of slack at the beginning. You're not going to be perfect at it right off the bat. I mean, I think you get better and better and better at it. And being a little bothered that you're not perfect at it is good because it forces you to learn how to do it. But beating yourself up over it is really not good. I mean, sometimes you just have to give in and let yourself do whatever it is that's distracting you and then come back with renewed focus to what you thought you needed to do.
Yeah, and I think understanding like the timeline of where everyone is at and working. So for example, you know, you can almost be in a position where you're responding to emails 24/7 because you have some people who have very young kids at home, you know, babies. And so they're waking up at 3 a.m. and they're trying to get their emails and stuff done. And that's perfect for them. But then I think sometimes, you know, trainees or others think like, oh, this email coming at 3 a.m., I'm supposed to be giving a response at 3 a.m. Or, you know, just the opposite. People, you know, maybe they're trying to deal with the home life during the day, and then they've now shifted the nightlife to work. And so just like you said, being patient, and knowing that the expectation isn't that you're responding during this whole, you know, 24-hour cycle, but that just like they are doing the work that they can do in the time that's viable for them, you should be responding in the time that's viable for you, and let go of some of that guilt about responding immediately to emails, because it's just constant at this point.
Oh, I agree. All right, I see another question in here. Can you talk about one of your most impactful mentors not directly connected to your work and how you found them and maintain that connection over time? I have a tough time keeping in touch with external mentors without seeming needy or braggy, for lack of better terms. I think that's a great question. I have a few examples. I'm going to preface this by saying that, you know, the nature of the relationship that you set up with a mentor can vary and doesn't have to be fixed, and it doesn't have to be, you know, a daily or weekly check-in. It could be something that you all work out amongst yourselves, or it could be something that kind of organically phases in and out. It doesn't have to have any fixed parameters to it. And so sometimes with an external mentor that I may have, I think I met somebody about a year ago who I co-facilitated a session with, and I just thought that she was just brilliant. And so I'm just like, oh my goodness, I have to stay in touch with you. I'm not going to email you every week, but, you know, I want to stay in your radar, in your network. And, you know, it's 2020. There's lots of different platforms I wish to do that. You know, LinkedIn, ResearchGate, Twitter. I would say some of those more subliminal ways of keeping in touch, commenting on a tweet, liking a LinkedIn post, sending a message periodically are great ways of keeping in touch without feeling like you're obligated to send a formalized email or connect with them every time they're in town, but stay connected virtually. There are some people who I spoke to once and never talked to again, but we like each other's posts and we comment on LinkedIn all the time and we stay connected that way. And so we always know of each other and we rendezvous at conferences. And it's like, wow, it's like we never grew apart since we've been connecting on LinkedIn all year. And so just kind of find some of those other more kind of subliminal ways of keeping in touch, and that'll help kind of bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah, I find national meetings are an incredibly good way, and not even the sessions. You know, yes, you go to that person's session or maybe they come to yours and you can use that as a takeoff point, but just to email somebody or text somebody ahead of time to say, I wonder if you're going to be at this meeting. I would love to touch base with you. I would love to tell you a little bit about my next project or my paper or my whatever. And what's interesting is that over time, some of these meetings get to feel like a family reunion. I mean, I feel that way about the Child Neurology Society meeting. The entire meeting is people that trained me, people I trained alongside, and people I trained. And that's everybody in the room. And I find, I mean, the drawback is I spend less time at the sessions and more time cruising and schmoozing with all the people, but actually maybe that's not such a bad thing. I learn a lot doing that. And, you know, we find out that sometimes we've gone along the same lines, but sometimes in the time that we haven't touched base, we've gone in very different directions. And so we learn something from one another when we reconnect. But I agree that to do these things that are a little bit sub rosa, so that you're not shoving yourself in somebody's face, to actually say, you know, yeah, I noticed that you did this. You know, nominating somebody for something or inviting, actually, that's the other thing. And I was very junior when I did this. I mean, just suggesting somebody's name as a speaker in a seminar series. And I'm assuming we're going to get back to doing in-person seminar series in the not too distant future. But I think it's flattering for the person. It gives you a chance to host them at your own institution. I think that's a good way to connect.
All right, we have here, I love that your team sought out resources to build training and project management. Are there some tips or resources? Oh, okay, I lost it for a second. Are there some tips or resources you've come across that you think are most useful for building PM skills? Yes. So for starters, I wrote a blog for ASM about project management. Look up Caleb McKinney ASM, and it'll be project management for researchers. I'm sure we'd love some more traffic to that blog. Secondly, Howard Hughes Medical Institute wrote a big old book, Making the Right Moves. So it's about management and research, and they go through in great depth a lot of the project management skills. And so that's like a holy grail of project management for researchers. And the actual training that we're putting together in my team, we're going to disseminate it broadly this fall once we finish with the training, because it's funded by the Burroughs Wellcome Fund. So we would make sure everybody has access to that material. So those are some places to start. I didn't know if there was anything at NIH that you all wanted to piggyback on for those.
Yeah, so I think the closest to that is strategic planning. I mean, I think you could take all of the things you do in institutional strategic planning and apply them to personal strategic career planning. You know, how do you start from the big vision and work down to the day-to-day details and the roadmap, if you will, the kind of task list you need to accomplish to get where it is you ultimately want to go. There's a wonderful article, and if I can dig it out, I will give it to Michelle to distribute, but it's in the Harvard Business Journal, and it's about strategic planning for science and how you translate that into accomplishing a project, fashioning a career. How do you take what they do every day in business with the outcome being how much money are we going to make off of this, and translate it to something where you want to accomplish a knowledge-based purpose or a learning purpose. Very, very interesting. But the process seems to me exactly the same. You know, the outcomes you want to achieve may be different.
And if anybody hasn't read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's a great book to read just to kind of shift your paradigm a bit on how you kind of see the situations that you're in and how you manage yourself and deal with managing others. It's been paradigm shifting for me, that's for sure, particularly with how I manage my time. All right.
I think the next one was the mentor circles.
Ah, yes. So this question's based on finding mentor circles. What are some resources or ways to get mentors, both in my institution or outside, on career development other than research? I have a strong mentoring in terms of actual research, but am lacking in, you know, the other things, career development, mentoring in other spaces. And so we encounter this all the time. And the best thing that I could say happens is when my trainees appreciate that and they come and tell me, like, I need mentoring and other things. And I'm like, thank goodness you told me that, and I wasn't beating the dead horse anymore, having to tell you all that. So I love it when that realization happens. And so what we try to do at Georgetown, and this happens all sorts of other places, is providing a network for you to tap into so that you can have access to other types of individuals that work on other things, to get those multiple perspectives. And so engaging alumni from some of the programs that you're in that may work in various fields or may work in research and different functions that you may be interested in that you're not getting direct mentorship in. And so that's one way. Joining meetup groups has been another way that's been particularly helpful for folks here in DC, because there's a lot of meetup groups in specific areas of interest. Like there's a big data meetup group, there's a biotech meetup group. And so you find people at various stages of their career who can help as well. And one thing that I think is very interesting is that informational interviews, you'll notice, can start out as informational, and then they can oftentimes turn into shorter or longer term mentoring relationships as well. Like I said, mentoring doesn't have to be a defined relationship. It can be an on and off thing, or it could be something that was just in that moment. But the quickest answer to a very long answer was broadening your network first, and then finding mentors within an expanded network.
And I think something that we've even seen today, right, in the chat, is that near peers or peer-to-peer mentoring is really valuable and important, because you have people that are maybe at the same career stage as you, or just once removed, who really in real time understand what you're going through. It could be very helpful. And I feel like a lot of the programs that we've tried to create through the Blueprint and the Brain Initiative, that's one of the goals in there, is that people use each other as networks to share and to grow together and to learn from each other. And I think, you know, as you see in the chat, this group is definitely doing that. So that's fantastic.
No, the near-peer mentoring has been great. Yeah.
The other resource that might be helpful, and I'm sure several in this group already know about it, is the National Research Mentoring Network, which NIH is a part of, but it's really run out of 3 or 4 universities around the country. And it's, you know, honestly, it's an enormous, well-curated database of people that have already said that they are willing to be mentors, that they're looking for people to help, and then people who say that they need mentoring. And so you can actually type a topic, an area, a skill that you want, and it'll give you a list of people and a brief biography of them. And then you can actually, through this interface, so that it's not awkward, it's not like you're writing a letter to them cold. Through this interface, you actually say, I'm interested in X, Y, or Z, or I'm embarking on the next phase of my career, and I really would like to connect with you as a mentor. How can we get together? And it is interesting. The interface has a series of videos that the mentor and the mentee are supposed to watch, and then they're supposed to have a dialogue around the video. And you know, everybody has different taste when it comes to going to the movies. I think the videos are really corny, and I just don't like them. So I tend to connect with a mentee through the network, and then offline, we end up emailing or texting or whatever. But I think it's a really good way to find out who's out there, who's willing to mentor you on something.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
And I stuck the link in the chat for the National Research Mentoring Network. Definitely check that out.
Thank you.
I see they did a revamp of their website. It looks really good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So the other question, which you've already kind of answered, I said, what are some good online mentoring resources? The other thing, and I think Lauren brought this to my attention, that there are a lot of Slack channels now where people sort of form these affinity groups around new faculty, you know, future tenure track faculty. I think there might actually be one for postdocs now. So yeah, I think, yeah, oh, go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, so there's the future PI Slack and new PI Slack. And I know that some of the people attending are a part of that. So, and I've heard that it's very helpful in terms of connecting with other people at your career stage that are sort of navigating similar issues.
You know where else? I follow the Academic Chatter hashtag on Twitter, and I have found so many amazing people who I just kind of cold call, reach out to. I'm just like, that tweet was awesome. Can we connect? And so I find that Twitter is just a great place to just kind of watch what's going on and find new people to interact with and network with.
Yeah. I mean, that's Marguerite's world. She's like our Twitter celeb. We'll go to meetings and people, they will hug each other, and then she'll say, yeah, we just know each other from Twitter. So that's you know, and we've talked about that in our different sort of events at SFN, how to use Twitter effectively, because a lot of information is out there. And I know that, you know, people approach us to tweet from our NINDS account all the time and to sort of get the information out there. So it's not just for what do you call it, cat memes or GIFs anymore. It really is, I think, a way to use professional connections.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. We have an informational interview question. I think that's where we're at. Oh, this is a great one. Been told to not talk too much about yourself during informational interviews, but I've had a hard time explaining what I want or need without doing that. How do you navigate between giving the person enough information to get to know you and not speaking about yourself too much? So what I found with a lot of the people who've approached me with informational interviews, and what I have found to be successful conversations in that regard, is so they start out the conversation by explaining why me? Why are they talking to me? What was it about me that was interesting to them? And me, just like everybody else is on the receiving end of an informational interview, loves to hear why I was so great in that moment, right? And so you start out talking to someone in an informational interview being like, this is why I was particularly attracted to your particular career trajectory, what I found interesting about what you were doing, because that aligns with this in my particular career trajectory. And then that kind of moves the conversation into you a bit. But starting out with, okay, this is why we're here. And this is why I wanted to talk to you. And so I found that works very well. And I get a lot of good feedback from my students and trainees for how they initiated conversations that way. And there's a resource about overall, there's the psychology of informational interviews with regards to building a professional relationship. And it was an article published in Inside Higher Ed. I'm going to dig up, when somebody else is talking, I'm going to dig it up and put it in the chat, because that just blew my mind. I was just like, that's brilliant. My informational interviews are going to be fabulous from here on out after reading that article. So I'm going to find it and put it in here for you all.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think if the conversation clicks, it almost happens organically, that you're not talking all the time about one or the other of the people. If you, rather than saying, my job is to give a lecture and to tell this person all about myself, if you just say, I'm going to start off with an introduction as to why I'm asking this question and a question, the give and take of that interview is going to happen organically, and you almost won't have to work at it. If it doesn't, you have to ask yourself if that was the right person to call. Because I think two people that have something in common, or that, where one has something to offer to the other, a dialogue happens very much by itself. And I think the same, I sort of alluded to this in my talk. I think the same is true of job interviews. Before I came to NIH, I was a department chair, pediatrics department chair. And people would always assume that they shouldn't ask for too much, or they shouldn't talk too much about what they needed, because then they wouldn't get the job. I would just think that they were trying to build an empire or something. But what the fallacy in that is that, why would you hire somebody if you knew that you weren't giving them what they needed to be successful? If they fail, you've wasted a lot of resources on somebody that you're bringing in. I mean, the idea is to say, what do you need in order to be successful at what you do? And that ends up being, I think negotiation is a word that has such a pejorative feel to it. It really should be a conversation, a discussion back and forth. And I think in informational interviews, it just happens by itself if the two people come at it with the same attitude. We have a shared interest. You have something I need to know about. I'm somebody who will be the future you, maybe. And then it just happens as a real conversation.
So on that same line, we don't really know when things are going to open up again. And with SFN maybe not happening. And I know people do a lot of their interviews for their transitions there in person. Are there any recommendations you have about virtual interviewing? Any tips?
So there's several differences between virtual and in person. I know for me, I haven't had a button-down shirt on since before this meeting, and probably won't for the rest of the month. And so I always encourage the students to dress up for virtual interviews, even if you're not going to have your camera on, so that you have that confidence, and particularly facial expressions for phone interviews. Smile and gesture and do things like you would in person, because that does come out in your tone. And it could keep you from going monotone just to kind of continue those expressions. And so that comes across, especially when you don't have your camera, because a lot of the interview, a good percentage, I don't have data on this, but a good percentage of the interview is nonverbal. And to try to recapitulate that in a virtual setting is very hard. But the simplest answer that I have is to try to maintain as many of those habits that you would in a in-person interview.
Yeah, in a way, it feels, because you're the one doing the asking, you're typically the one that's initiated it and said, I need to talk to you because I have questions and whatever. It could feel potentially like a one-sided, but it never is. You don't know which of those informational interviews is going to turn into a mentoring relationship or a job offer or a, or a recommendation or something of that nature. And so I agree with you that you want to look your best. I mean, really, the three-piece suit is probably not necessary. This doesn't need to look formal. It really should look like you're comfortable in your own skin, and you should really be yourself. But I think it is a business interaction, and so you should dress for a business interaction. And I must say, I find it harder than my younger colleagues do. I think you should look as natural as you possibly can. You should try to forget that there's a computer screen between you and the person. And at first it's not easy to do. But I guess all of us have had a lot of practice doing this now. Maybe that's one of the upsides of this.
Silver lining.
Yeah, we're all experts at this now.
Yeah.
So thank you both. We're gonna segue to our next section. I know that I'm sure we'll get some virtual claps in the chat. I found this very helpful, and I know a lot of people did. So thank you both, and thank you for the resources, the links. And as I said, we'll follow up with that, with the follow-up email when we send out the recording too. All right. So thank you. So is everyone ready for the wellness huddle? I'd like to welcome Dr. Angela Byers-Winston. She's a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She's a tenured faculty member in the Division of General Internal Medicine. And then she's also the Director of Research and Evaluation in the UW Center for Women's Health Research, an Associate Director for the Collaborative Center for Health Equity, and faculty lead in the Center for the Improvement of Mentored Experiences in Research. So a lot of titles, but at the end of all of that, she's just a wonderful person that I think should be on everyone's radar. And I'm so happy that she was able to fit us into her schedule today. So thank you, Dr. Byers-Winston. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones-London, and good afternoon to everyone in the virtual World Wide Web. Thank you for this invitation to join you with great scholars like Dr. Shore and Dr. McKinney and others who've been speaking for the last hour and a half or so. And I just want to acknowledge that after I have all those titles at UW, basically you get here and stay here for as long as I have, 23 years. You just grab a whole lot of stuff that basically means somebody else is paying my salary. Besides my department, which makes my chair happy. So anyway, I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation. And I know that we have had a wonderful set of conversations. I got to hear the last 15 minutes or so, thinking about who you are as a professional, thinking about how you're crafting your life and your work in the middle of this interesting transition time we find ourselves in. And so as Dr. Jones-London and I spoke about what might be one way to conclude our time together, we thought about just what I would call a fireside chat, a little huddle to kind of do a little pulse check amongst the community since we're not face-to-face, to just find out how everybody's doing. And I know there was a check-in at the top of the meeting, and so I don't want to be redundant. I have a set of slides I'd like to share with us, and I hope I do this successfully. Wish me well. Let's see, Greg, I'm going to hit share. And I believe, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Lovely, okay. I have a few goals for our time together. Specifically, since we only have about 40 minutes left, I don't want to do all of the talking. I just want to spend a little time doing three things. One is a quick framing of kind of this historical and social moment that we find ourselves in that prompted a lot of the conversations and questions that have been happening in the chat. I'd like to share and have us reflect jointly on a wellness check in our mind, our body, our spirit, and our heart. And then share some resources together for supporting our wellness and our resilience. So I want to just acknowledge, as I've shared with other colleagues who are presenting today, that no good idea should be used once. So I want to acknowledge other scholars whose work and thoughts I'm drawing on for today, and even some of a slide here or there might come from one of these colleagues, including Dr. Sharon Milgram, who's the director of the Office of Intramural Training and Education, who I understand may be speaking to this community in the near future. Dr. Julie Posselt, who is a faculty member and has been tweeting, as Dr. McKinney was talking about, in the social media realm. Lots of great exchanges going on. Lots of wonderful insights about how to manage and navigate our transitions in academia during these uncertain kind of processes for academic and career development. And Dr. Ruth Godian, who a couple of weeks ago wrote a career blog in the journal Nature that was directed to mentors about how to support trainees during this time. So I also want to give a little...
Just real quick, you're currently in presenter mode. If you could go to the top of the screen where it says display settings and top left, click that and do duplicate slideshow.
Thank you. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, lovely. Look at that. Okay. As it stops, and now I have to share again. Okay. Here we are. Is that better?
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Sorry to interrupt.
Wonderful. I'm glad you did. That would have been very frustrating to watch that on the screen the whole time. I want to acknowledge, even though I'm a faculty member in medicine, I'm a PhD in an MD world, and I'm a psychologist by training. And so as a counseling psychologist, I'm aware that there is the work we do that gives us meaning, but our work does not define our worth. And I want to say that once more. I want to start off this conversation by acknowledging the fact that I believe our work does not define our worth. W-O-R-T-H. And for that reason, when things like our current pandemic happen and they literally disrupt everything, let's see if I can advance my slides here. It causes us to reevaluate what our real worth is. Who am I without being able to speak in front of a class? Who am I outside of the lab? Who am I if I can't be in communication regularly with someone? How do I actually show caring when I'm not face to face? And so with this disruption of everything, I don't want to spend so much time on that because the news and other media has flooded our minds with that. I want to acknowledge that when we have these, I don't know if I'd say challenging experiences, but certainly a disruption of everything that has happened, I think one of the few times I can think of in history where such a challenging event has happened at the same time with the same intensity all around the country, all around the world. And so this disruption of everything can be seen when we think about events that change our lives. Psychologists have talked about the ABCs, the activating event itself, so you can think about our responses to COVID-19 and the pandemic, the beliefs which come into play in terms of the stories we tell ourselves, and then the consequences that those disrupting events have on our lives. So I just want to highlight a little bit about the stories we tell ourselves and think for a moment as a team how you've been storying, S-T-O-R-Y-I-N-G, storying this pandemic to yourself and its impact on your career development. Here's one example about how we can tell the story about when something goes wrong. This image says this escalator is temporarily out of service, and through the words out of service, the line is drawn that says stairs. That's a reframe. This escalator is now a stair versus it's out of service. Oh my gosh, I have to climb up this mountain. So how we story events that happen to us can shape how they have an impact on us. And you've heard this before. You don't need anyone to tell you this, but we can't control the events, but what we can control is our reaction to them. And that's what this image, when I saw it, kind of stood out to me. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time just giving space for us to think about the stories that we're telling ourselves, and more so the consequences, the beliefs, the consequences in terms of the strategies we're taking, not how things are happening to us, but what we're doing in response to these different disruptions of everything. So again, I want to acknowledge that Dr. Milgram's office, OITE at NIH, has been advancing this wellness focus, even has a series that she's been presenting on the resilient scientist. So this image is from the NIH OITE office. And I want to just use this as a reference point for us to think about how we're caring for ourselves and what we're aware about the various dimensions that make us up in terms of our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirit. So as I said, I promised you I was not going to do a whole lot of talking, just a little bit more facilitation. I also want to acknowledge I did not come into this time thinking that I would give you the golden nuggets that would give you everything you needed to answer the questions that we're wrestling with in the middle of the disruption of everything, but rather to facilitate a space for us to chat with each other. So I'm going to give us about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how things go here, and just want to hear from you all on the call, either through the chat box or audio or video. It would be great to come on and see your faces. How are you? And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second because I can't see the chat unless I do that. There we go. Did I stop sharing? Am I back to just Angela on the screen? Okay, I think I'm back to just Angela on the screen.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Angela on the screen. So I'd like to hear, how are you? What's going on? How are you managing?
And I think Greg is going to unmute you. And
Wonderful.
Also, if you want to share your video, please feel free.
I'd love to hear your voice. I'm going to visually try to track as many of the chat entries as possible. You can imagine if 70 come in at once, I won't be able to capture them. One person has said they're happy to be relaxing without looming deadlines, juggling a lot with 2 kids at home. I appreciate that. I have relegated my children upstairs and said, do not come down with that mother look, like if you come down and embarrass me on this webinar. Yeah, so I can appreciate that. It's a lot. Getting used to, some of us are getting used to being at home a little bit more regularly. It's getting better, hanging in there. Anybody likes to come on audio and or video, we'd like that. Some of us are in the stage where we're defending our dissertation and wondering how that's going to happen. I know that some of us are going to virtual defenses and heard a couple of folk already doing that at the UW. One person's not doing so well. They have computational work, and so there's a lot of data with additional meetings, and obviously when folk have wet labs and samples and things that they're working on where they need equipment, it's going to be pretty tough. It's been challenging. They work in a high-risk category for developing. The person has a high risk of developing COVID, so thinking about staying well, of course. I certainly appreciate that. I deal with a chronic health issue myself and made my daughter stop working at a nursing home as of yesterday so that I would not be vulnerable, and just got over pneumonia 4 weeks ago myself. I thought I had COVID, so I can appreciate just nervousness for this time. And then I have a 9-year-old who's a human petri dish, you know, kind of a vector at this time of just throwing everything to her. So we're thinking about all of us who have different vulnerabilities ourselves and the people that we live with. Other folk are managing committee chairs, who thankfully is reminding at least one person to do some self-care and get some sleep. One person have similar level of productivity. First few weeks have been challenging, starting to get a little bit of a new normal. And I'll talk about that, as I've mentioned to Dr. Jones London. I don't believe in the new normal. I think it's going to be the new, because we don't have a precedent for this before, and it will change even how we go back to work, how we go back to classes. Even someone having a tickle in their throat now looking with the side eye, like, are you, contagious? You can't even just clear your throat without everyone looking at you. So it's going to change our social interactions as well. A lot of roller coaster of emotions as things go up and down. Sometimes I have a burst of energy, sometimes I want to stay inside. I have binge watch way too much TV, I know that myself. But I've given myself some grace in terms of adjusting to this new. Online comprehensive exams are coming up. Folk are still trying to find their equilibrium, accepting lower productivity when possible. Someone is waiting for a new baby, and super excited to have an understanding mentor, an amazing support group. So I'm glad to hear that as well. Partners are cooking again and sharing meals together, forgetting how much you loved sharing a regular kind of life, kind of rhythms together now that we're all back at home. Other folk are fortunate to be at the stage of writing stage in their PhD, so working from home has been very helpful. One person said they finished all of Netflix. I love it. Lots of grant writing going on. It's been stressful. One person's partner or wife is a healthcare provider, and of course with parents who might be at high risk. And I'm so sorry, our condolences to our colleague Corey, who's already lost 2 grandparents to this virus. And I know that many of us are thinking all the time about people we know who are infected but also affected by COVID. And someone is focusing on their second 1,000 piece puzzle. So this is a good place to pause for a little bit. If you'd like to keep putting some of your comments in the chat, that's welcome. I will say that it's important for you to know that you are heard and that you are seen, and that's why I wanted to take just a moment for us to share how we're really doing, because with the physical distancing, we're not always telling how we're really doing. I'm one of those folk who had to move past the I'm fine. No, today's not a good day, and I've been on the computer too long and I can't focus anymore, and I'd rather just be outside because the weather, for example, may have changed. We had snow yesterday in Madison, and I'm excited to, have sun. So sometimes I'm like, I got to take advantage of actually getting out on a bicycle. So, and being okay with that. So, so even just putting our comments on a chat box, saying something to another audience, just having a witness say, we hear you, we see you, we know what's going on, is important. So I realize that we can't capture everybody, but just want to encourage us to use these types of opportunities, and so thankful that NIH Blueprint Diversity went on so that we could have this time to chat. So I'm going to switch back to sharing my screen and put my PowerPoint back up. Oh, let's try this one more time. If I share it first, that is better. And come out of this mode. There we go. Oh, hello. What happened? Let's try it again. I'm going to get there. All right. So I'd like to actually borrow from some of the work again of colleagues I acknowledge.
Angela, sorry to interrupt. You're not sharing your screen currently.
Oh, okay.
If you could, on the PowerPoint, when it's not in display mode, go to the slideshow tab. And then on the right side, there should be a use presentation view or use presenter view checkbox. You want to uncheck that. So on PowerPoint, saying at the top where it's home insert design, you want to click on slideshow, and on the right, there should be a tab that's labeled monitors, and there should be a use presenter view checkbox. You want that unchecked.
I think I didn't follow you fast enough, and I apologize. So go into my PowerPoint. I had it before.
Yes.
Okay.
And then go into slideshow tab.
Thank you. Okay, gotcha. And
then
unclick.
unclick Use Presenter View and then reshare your screen with Zoom.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right. Now we're back in play, I believe. Maybe? Yes? No? Something happened again. It's on my second screen. I have 2 screens at home. So let's try this again. Please stand by. Resume slideshow. Nope. I'll give it one more shot. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to stop sharing. Let me go back to the beginning. Okay, now if I share my PowerPoint and I hit that resume slideshow, you all still see a small screen, right?
We see the PowerPoint not in display mode, but in the editing view right now.
Yeah, it's, let's see if we present online. What's happened? Well, I tell you what, we'll just work with it. Okay.
Would you like me to run your slides?
Sure, but I think I'm okay. I had it the first time. It's just over on my second screen now, and I'm not sure why. So I can see the presenter screen is on the right side. So if this is this frustrating for everybody, or can we just handle it?
No, it's fairly large now.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go. All right. So we'll just keep it moving here. Grace to myself. This is a way to give grace to myself. It's just technology. So I'd like to do a wellness check, and specifically, as you recall, a few slides ago, I talked about the 4 dimensions that make us who we are: our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirit. And specifically relating to our body, I'm thinking about our physical wellness. This is a silent exercise for yourself to think about, on a continuum of never to always, how you're doing on your physical wellness. And what I want you to do, I'm going to give you an assessment for each one of these 4 dimensions with a set of questions. So body, mind, heart, and spirit. And I want you, by the time we do this self-assessment, I'll go through it in about 3 to 5 minutes, identify at least one thing in each of these areas of our well-being, body, mind, heart, and spirit, that you want to target for yourself. Okay, so one thing in each one of these dimensions that you want to target for yourself to either maintain or do better at. Okay, so if it's something like, wow, the sleep piece has been the most important thing, I want to keep that up. Or I haven't been getting enough of a balanced nutritional meals throughout the day. That's what I want to do better on. So one thing for each dimension of our wellness: body, mind, heart, and spirit. So body is obviously our physical wellness. Now that I'm not in presenter mode, these were going to be animated up one at a time, but you can see them for yourself. And that is, if you're getting enough sleep, 7 to 9 hours is what is recommended for our sleep cycle. I'm getting balanced nutrition. I'm eating balanced nutritional meals. I'm avoiding excessive use of caffeine, alcohol, or other drugs of abuse that could obviously interrupt your functioning mentally and physically. I am getting regular exercise, regular meaning 3 times per week minimum, whatever that looks like to you. I am getting regular health care for myself. And again, that might be a telehealth now instead of going in person, but checking on your physical well-being. I take care of myself when I am sick, tired, or just need a break. And again, I think in this current status of pandemic, these last 2 questions are certainly much more salient for many of us than they have been in the past. So that's body. So just think of one of these items, and if you have another item, that's fine before I go to the next slide. But at least one item in your physical wellness, in your body, that you want to do more of or continue to maintain. Next is mind. Specifically thinking about your mental wellness. What are your thoughts? What are the emotions that you're having? What is the narrative kind of movie that's playing in your head. Again, the stories that you're telling yourself about how things are going at this time, how things are going to be in the future. So for our mental wellness, a couple of questions that stand out. And again, think about one that you want to do better or maintain. I don't think I have to do everything perfectly. Again, thinking about mindset. I focus on the present rather than rehashing the past or worrying about the future. I engage in negative or deceptive self-talk, things that could be destructive to productivity, to a positive self-image. Next, I practice self-affirmations and positive self-talk. That would be the complementary opposite to the previous question. I frequently compare myself to others. I give myself time to explore and learn new things. I am open to counseling as a tool to maintain and improve my health and well-being. So think of one thing in this mental wellness section that you want to maintain and or do better. And again, this is all self-reflection. Next is your emotional wellness. Thinking about your heart and the kinds of, the degree to which you're in touch with your emotions. You have a sense of being congruent with what you're experiencing and how you're expressing that. So a couple of questions or a couple of statements to consider. I'm in touch with and let myself feel all of my emotions. I reach out to others for support when I need it. I communicate my needs and feelings directly and honestly. I make time to spend with my friends and family, however that looks now in this current status of our society. I engage in activities that are fun and relaxing for me. And here's one that I hope that we all are maintaining or will do better at. I demonstrate compassion for myself and others. So think of one and just make a note for yourself, either physically a note or mentally in your mind. This is our emotional wellness. So we've had physical wellness, our mental wellness, our emotional wellness, and lastly, I want to talk about our spirit, our spiritual wellness. This is important in terms of cultivating a sense of our connectedness to something bigger than who we are. It's having a sense of deeper meaning and purpose, a sense of the larger why of who you are. A couple of statements for you to consider. I feel connected to something bigger than me, however you define that. I seek out resources that could include practices, activities, people, and places that nurture my spirit. I reflect on and invest in what is meaningful to me. I read writings or watch media that are inspirational to me. I allow time to just be. This is human being versus human doing. I engage in activities that support my life's purpose. So thinking about how you're connecting to something bigger than yourself, re-engaging with a sense of purpose, deeper meaning, one thing that you're already doing that you want to maintain, or one thing that you want to do better and more of. Okay. I want to now stop again and come back to sharing amongst ourselves. And again, if anyone would love to come on audio or video, it sure would be great to hear your voice. I don't want to hear just my voice, although I know that's what I was invited to do, but I would love to hear some exchange with you all and hear your voices as well. So as we thought about, or as I thought about putting together that assessment and having us reflect for just a moment, about how we're doing these 4 dimensions that make up who we are, our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirit. It occurs to me that you are engaging probably in practices that you are using to support your well-being during this transition time, and that it might be useful to share that amongst one another. As you saw from the chat, we have a range of folk who are across the spectrum from I'm struggling and I need some support to, you know, depends on the day you catch me. Sometimes I'm on fire and sometimes I just want to stay in bed, to other folk who've, you know, binge watch TV, to folk who have, you know, new life transitions like family members who've passed away or family members that they're expecting to join them through a new childbirth. So lots of things that are going on. I'll share with you personally, as I just mentioned, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I just got off of antibiotics with pneumonia, and I have a chronic health condition, as I mentioned before. And so I spent a lot of time exercising fervently, like 5 times a week, and suddenly that stopped because the gyms are closed. And I felt very vulnerable, to be honest, walking outside, because everything feels scary now. Like I feel like my immune system has been compromised and anything could cause me to get sick, because there were other you know, diseases going around and flu outbreaks even before COVID took over in terms of the primary focus in our health status. So I have started enjoying Instagram. This is a big deal for my 16-year-old who's like, "You are so cool, mommy." But DJ D Nice, who was a rapper when I was growing up from Boogie Down Productions, who was part of KRS-One, the 1980s, calling out to the 1980s babies, has started an Instagram party that happens 3 or 4 times a week. It's old school music, the 80s, the 90s, and it's called Club Quarantine. Everybody from Michelle Obama to I don't know who else, Halle Berry and Melba Moore and Ava DuVernay have been on this party. So I feel like I'm having this virtual party 3 or 4 times a week. So that's been a self-care practice because I love dancing. I don't feel like I can go out right now outside the house without being too vulnerable, but I'm enjoying Instagram parties online. So I'm going to stop sharing now because I'd like to see your chat, but I'd love for us to share what practices you're doing to support your well-being during this transition time. And that may be self-care practices that you stepped away from during your training that you're now reclaiming. So I'm going to stop sharing and come back out to the show. Oh, somebody knows Club Quarantine. Oh, remember,
I knew Michelle was
CT?
going to put herself on video so she could talk about Club Quarantine.
Please put yourself on. Who else has been there in Club Quarantine? That is the place.
I'm trying.
Marjorie, okay.
So people raise your hands, and Greg, I think he has to do it individually, but do you see the raise hand, Greg?
Yes, I have just
Okay.
unmuted Antoinette Foster.
Okay, thank you.
Who was Antoinette Foster? Okay, she said, "I Club Quarantine, hands up." Okay, somebody. I'm not, please check out Club Quarantine. I'm having a blast. You will see me in there. I keep saying every time I join on Instagram, I say roll call Wisconsin, check it in. So that's me. So that's what I've been doing, is reclaiming the dance part of myself that most people don't know about. I'm a fantastic salsa dancer. I love dancing, and I'm an 80s baby all day, every day.
Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to share one of the things that's been really useful for me is just trying to stay grounded in the current moment. I think I have, like a lot of people, just a lot of anxiety that I deal with, and I think a lot about what the future is going to be, but with the future changing so dramatically, what feels like every minute, it doesn't serve me to stay in a space that's in the future. And so I try to think about what I can actually deal with right now instead of even tomorrow, or definitely not next week or anything like that. And I wanted to also say that I appreciate what the information you just gave us, because I had realized that I'd been feeling unlike myself, and I couldn't exactly pinpoint why, but I realized looking at your slides that the spirit part of myself, I can't really say that I've done any of those things recently. And I think it's what's made me feel disconnected to something bigger than myself. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it helped me identify it's something I was actually talking about this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Antoinette. Others, we see some in the chat, and feel free to come on audio or video, since Greg has unmuted us, I believe.
If you'd like to raise your hand, please click the Participants button at the bottom of the screen, and then on the right-hand side, you should see a list of the participants, and at the bottom, there should be a button either where you click Participants or on the right side that says Raise Hand. If you raise your hand, I'll be able to unmute you.
While we're waiting for someone, Angela, did you join in on the RZA and DJ Primo battle?
You know what? That was right after DJ G Nice had DJ for like 4 or 5 hours, so I had to stop then and go to dinner. But no, I did not get to. I was.
You'll
right
have to catch it on. You'll have to catch the YouTube video. It was really good, and since you appreciate New York rap, I think you'll love it.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I have been enjoying Instagram more, which I never thought I would. Originally, I only did it so I could monitor my 16-year-old on IG, but now I'm enjoying it myself and finding a lot of great things. There are dance classes there and all kinds of concerts, and fantastic. Okay, so we have some other folk coming in saying that exercise has been very centering. This person has adopted the mantra that physical, mental goals come before work goals. I love that choice to prioritize your mental and physical goals, which means exercise in the middle of the workday if it comes to it. I appreciate that. Other folk, what kinds of self-care practices are you either reclaiming or starting to put into practice? We see some folk who are gardening. It's been very distracting during this time. No matter how uncertain things are around us, the plants and the soil still remain certain. Wow. Let's just let that sit in for a minute. That's really powerful. The plants and the soil still remain certain. Thank you. Yep, the same, teaching fitness classes. Oh, you're actually teaching classes. That's fantastic. Twice a week. I bet are you doing Instagram? Are you doing Facebook Live? Let's see, RZA and DJ Premier Battle was amazing. Spotify created a playlist with the battles. Fantastic. Looking forward to the next battle, which is going to be Babyface and Teddy Riley. Yeah, my daughter is now into, my 16-year-old is now into like the battles that are happening between the songwriters. So it's like Neil and someone else, I forgot who it was a couple of weeks ago. YouTube Live is where, so you all can look for YouTube. Jasmine Kwasa, can we get onto your classes? Is that something you want to share with this community, that we could register for your YouTube classes? Let us know if that's something you'd like to share with the community. Hands-on resources that we can pull in would be great. Fantastic. It's there in the chat. If you all want a class, one of your own peers is leading online classes, jasminekwasa.com. So grab that before the chat goes away. Let's see, there's a lot of holy holidays happening during this time. It's been tough as we think about a loss of communities. You know, between many faiths, as you said, have had some high holy days recently and will continue throughout this spring. And so thinking about what community looks like when we celebrate these traditions, when we celebrate our holy days, but perhaps not in our places of worship and where we come together. There's some claps to Jasmine. Oh, your classes are archived as well. Nina Shore, thank you for sharing that. If your piano ever gets COVID-19, she'll die. So far that's what has been helping you stay connected and remaining healthy. And don't forget to bang on it and sing. I love it. So please continue to share things. I see a few more comments are coming through, like the House Party app, which has been useful for staying in touch with friends, watching Bob Ross on Netflix. Many of you may know that Netflix has a party option now. I've set this up for my 9-year-old. It's called Netflix Party, and you can then watch the same movie at the same time, use a chat box to discuss and exchange ideas as you watch. Reading and other things besides journal articles have been great. Corey White would like to say something, and Corey, will let you have the word, and then I'm going to close this out since we have about 6 minutes left. Corey, please come on if you'd like to.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So really I've just been using this time to really prioritize like what's really important and connecting with like a lot of friends and family. I've also been on a lot of club quarantine and a lot of the other formats as well. But it's just been a good time to reflect and like the hardship that there's also been. So.
And I hope that you saw the kind words and condolences that were coming into the chat for you and your family.
Yes, and thank you all.
Yes, thank you. So I'm hopeful, and again, I'm sure that Dr. Jones-London and other leaders on the call for this blueprint community will find a way, or have already put in place a way to keep these exchanges going. These communities of practice are so important. And when we share things like this about how we're really doing, we are sharing each other, and that's what's going to get us through this. So I want to spend a few moments just closing us out for our consideration. And thank you for tolerating my technology transitions. So let's see if we can do it again. Hold on to your hats, friends. Here we go last time. So let's see. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. I'm just gonna, instead of trying to make it go back to presenter view, we'll just leave it here. So I just have 2 more slides in this. So we talked about wellness, which is again, the ways that we thrive, that we have vibrancy and energy in these 4 areas of functioning. And as our colleagues mentioned, sometimes Antoinette, for example, mentioned that one of these we may have neglected. So I just want to encourage us to think about body wellness, which would be our physical wellness, our mental wellness in our mind, our emotional wellness in our heart, and our spiritual wellness in our spirits. So that's about how we thrive and function and have vibrancy. The resilience is how we bounce back and have staying power. So I said I wanted to talk about wellness, and I wanted to talk a little bit about resilience. And so as we just were sharing, Corey and Antoinette and many of our colleagues on the chat box, the practices are the ways that we're being resilient. So I just want to lift that up for our consideration, whether we're gardening, playing the piano, dancing, leading exercise classes, being with family, reading. Those are ways to be resilient. And I just want to encourage us from the Mayo Clinic. This is a resource, and I gave you the link. I'll share the PowerPoint with our leaders on the call if you want to distribute it to the community so they can reference it later. This is from the Mayo Clinic. Ways to be resilient include learning from our previous experiences. So what have you done in the past when you've had these, you've faced a challenge, when things weren't going right, when you couldn't control them? For example, we don't know when our safer at home, mandates will be lifted. For example, we don't know when we're getting back to the labs. Some of us don't know how and when we're going to defend our dissertations. So when you've had other experience where you couldn't control that, what did you do? It's important to build our strong positive relationships with our peers as well as our mentors, be proactive and use our resources to thrive, develop our growth mindset in terms of thinking about the ways that we can learn from these challenges and grow through them, being thoughtful about how we approach setback and really watching the stories we tell. I started off with that slide about what is the story that we're telling ourselves in our mind as we go through these transitions, and do things that bring meaning to your day, your week, your month. I have been dipping back into my joy bucket. I call it my joy bucket, the things that make me happy. And that I had put down because I travel a lot for work. It's like, well, now that I'm home, I get to pick some of those things back up. So just some closing thoughts, and then we'll have a minute in case I want to make sure that I don't take us right over time, because I don't know if Dr. Jones-London wants to officially close us out. But I'll just remind us that one of the things that's important when factors like the disruption of everything through this pandemic feels like it's happening to us, it's hard to remember that we actually do have some agency, we do have some choice. So activate those choices in the places where you can choose what you do or when you do it. Like someone said, I might exercise in the middle of the day. That's something you can control. It's also important to adjust your to-do list. So what productivity looks like changes for me. I cannot recreate an 8 or 9 hour workday at home. It's just impossible. And so I realized that what counts for productivity one day might be just, I checked email and I got caught up on email. It may not be writing. So adjusting our to-do list and being gracious to one another. I encourage us to share, if you haven't already amongst your community or amongst this community, resources that are helpful. Our team actually has a Google Doc. I was going to share that if I could do it quickly, where we have all the resources that we want to use, how we're available, how you can get in touch with us. We have resources for wellness. You can see this tab at the bottom. We have resources for mental health resources that are available free to anybody around the world, like Life Matters and Crisis Hotline, where you can text people. So that's something we've decided as a research team we're putting together and people can share. And then lastly, I just want to share and remind us to focus on what's important. I think kindness and empathy are more salient than ever before. And one thing as a closing thought that Ruth Godian, who wrote that article in Nature blog that I said I was referencing as well, said that her trainee reminded her, he's a PhD student, something that I think is a really nice way to close, which is this situation requires human kindness and empathy. Maybe mentorship here is just realizing the humanity in each of us and being there as equals with one another through an uncertain time. So with that, I'd like to end and stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to Dr. Jones-London.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was really, I think as Antoinette said, it was really nice to just check in with all 4 of those dimensions of ourselves. And as you said, extending each other grace during this time is extremely important. So I'm sure you'll get some snaps and claps in the chat. So thank you. And with that, you know, we'll have some final words. I mean, I really do hope that you found this useful, not only for all of those different dimensions, emotionally, spiritually, but also in terms of thinking about the tools and the techniques you can use when we get to the other side of this. As we keep saying, this too shall pass. There's a sense of learning about ourselves and recognizing the resiliency that we all have. And the truth of the matter is that this is unique because it's a pandemic, and we're all experiencing this at the same time. But, you know, I've had several people tell me, yeah, you know, I experienced this a few years ago when the hurricane hit Puerto Rico. So just recognizing the fact that, you know, that there will be things that will come again, and having that sort of muscle memory in terms of how you can survive. And as I said at the beginning, hopefully we as just a collective community keep that thought about grace for each other and recognition of what can be flexible in terms of actually thinking about the whole person. Hopefully we don't lose that when business goes back to normal. So it was really nice seeing everybody here. Please stay in contact with us as you go along. If you have questions, we're going to send all of this really valuable information out to you later. We'll consolidate it. And I think Marguerite had a sort of a lasting sort of quote or thought that she wanted to leave us with.
Yeah, so thank you, Michelle, and thank you to all of our panelists for sharing their wisdom with us. I am filled with that information, so certainly hope that our trainees are as well. But I think it's been emphasized that this is something that none of us have really kind of dealt with, and we're all figuring out what our normal is, or our just daily routines are. Give yourself some grace, but also I just want to leave you with this idea of being intentional. So this is a quote from Adrienne Marie Brown that says, "Seek that which feels real, tangible, visceral, and positively motivating. Our time is this miraculous limitation, and perhaps the only real limitation we face. Each day in these bodies can be purposeful or can be wasted." So I hope you move forward in purpose, and only you can decide what something, how something is purposeful. And it's, as someone told me the other day, productivity, this is not a productivity contest. We don't have to try to decide how much we can get done in this time. If you just add 15 minutes a day of doing something that is meaningful to you, then your day will have been served well. So be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and just reach out to us if you need any help. If it's a pep talk, if it's accountability, you know, we want to make sure that you're finding ways to be as productive as you can, and also give yourself a rest when it's just not working out.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate all the panelists. It was a really good meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you all.
And thank you to Greg.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Yes, thank you,
Yes.
Greg.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.